Welcome back to today's video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 presidential U.S. election between incumbent President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump, and what the map would look like if World War III, yes, World War III broke out today, which would obviously be under the Biden administration. So what won't look good on his, foreign policy resume. But yeah, what the 2024 election would look like if World War III had broken out, within this month or today, basically, which tensions are rising, as we all know. So let's begin with this map. But before let's actually fill in the likely states, and we'll move on to the data. I have some. Ohio is going to go to Trump. That's likely. Iowa, I put it in safe. You can argue it's likely for Trump, but I think it's safe. And then other likely states for Joe Biden would be, in my opinion, states like Minnesota, arguably, but I would say that's not really likely at this point. But I think Colorado is definitely likely for Joe Biden. Even if World War III broke out today, I think Colorado will still back the incumbent president. Colorado is still a Democratic, trendy swing state. And then another likely state, surprisingly, I have New York being likely for Joe Biden. The reason why I have New York being likely is, take a look at the 2022 midterms, for example. Republicans overperformed in New York, especially the governor's race, whereas Kathy Hatchell almost lost her seat. She won by only 5 percentage points, and that's not a lot, especially in a safe Democratic state. Lee Zeldin almost upsetted her. He almost flipped that seat. You take a look at some polls suggesting, and highly suggested polls, A+ coming in from Siena College. New York polls for 2024 between a head-to-head matchup between Trump and Biden. Biden only wins by 9, and that's still a good margin, but that's not a type of margin you want to be seeing in a solid blue state. Typically a solid blue state. So Biden only winning by 9 in New York, that's not good. And this is a trustworthy poll, A+ rated. And then you add Kennedy, RFK Jr. Kennedy, to the race. Biden wins by 7. So Kennedy actually helps Trump in New York specifically, because you have these Democrats in New York that don't want to vote for Biden, and they would go over to Kennedy, which would help Trump. So in a three-way race between Kennedy, Trump, and Biden, Kennedy actually helps Trump in New York specifically. Now, Kennedy might hurt Trump in other states, but when we're talking about New York, Kennedy actually helps Donald Trump. So with that being said, I actually see New York being likely instead of safe for Joe Biden. Does that mean it's winnable for Donald Trump? Probably not, but we'll leave New York likely for now. And another likely state for Donald Trump will be the state of Florida. That state's obviously it's a lost cause for Democrats at this point. Democrats have been terrible at choosing candidates. Val Deming, she was a disaster. Charlie Crist, he was a disaster. You name it. Florida is a lost cause for Democrats at this point. At this point, it's a arguably solid Republican state, but I'll leave it at likely for now. Obviously, you saw what happened in 2022 midterms. Republicans overperformed expectations in Florida. Ron DeSantis won by 20 percentage points. That's a safe margin. Marco Rubio almost won by a safe margin. You can argue it's safe. That was around 9 percentage points. I would say likely. So either way, Florida's likely to safe at this point for any Republican candidate. It doesn't really matter at this point. It's just Florida overall is a Republican state at every single level. So, not too much time talking or discussing there. So now that's all the likely states. And moving on to the lean states, I actually do think that Virginia will be lean for Joe Biden in a case where World War III broke out, or if it didn't. I still think it's going to be lean either way. Considering approval and considering what's going on with overall betting odds, Donald Trump has greater odds at winning the 2024 election. He is the favorite to win over Joe Biden by around 1 percentage point. So it's really close. Biden's at 200 odds and Trump's at 192. So Trump is slightly more favored than Joe Biden in terms of odds. And obviously, you throw in Gavin Newsom, which is a different scenario. He is at third place behind Biden and Trump. So obviously, Trump is slightly the favorite, but things can change. He's only up by 8 points in terms of betting odds. And then you take a look at the general, election polls from 538.com. Trump's up by 2, and Trump's up by 4. And these polls are coming in from just last week. Obviously, October 16 through 23. We're on October 25th at the day of this video, so These are very new polls suggesting that Trump is the favorite to win the 2024 election. And take a look at generic ballot polling. I mean, obviously, some hope for Joe Biden, as Biden is up by 1 percentage point over Donald Trump in the Economist poll. And then, that's some hope for Joe Biden. And then you take a look at another poll for Joe Biden. He's up by 2. So that's obviously another hope for Joe Biden. And obviously, you don't want to always trust polls, as they can be a little bit unreal, not accurate, as they thought Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016. That ended up not happening. And, they overestimated Republicans in the 2022 midterms. That ended up going in Democrats' favor. So, obviously, you don't want to trust polls all the time. But let's say if polls were right, this, would be the outcome. So, a close election going to Trump's favor. That's what polls are saying as of right now. So, and then another lean state would be New Mexico. Obviously, as for Virginia, Glenn Youngkin did amazing. But obviously, governor's race does not does not carry on to the general election. So, obviously, Glenn Youngkin is not Donald Trump. Glenn Youngkin does way better than Donald Trump in Virginia. I think we can all agree on that. And then as far as New Mexico goes, I think Colorado and New Mexico probably will vote very similar. I think Colorado is more to the left than New Mexico is. Even though I still have both New Mexico and Colorado going to Joe Biden with a comfortable margin, I still think New Mexico can remain a little bit more competitive than Colorado is, but it doesn't really matter. They both will go to Joe Biden. And then another lean state for Michigan. Actually, Michigan, I would say Michigan is lean for Joe Biden, but in a scenario where World War III had to break out, I would say that would be tilt for Joe Biden. Obviously, I have Michigan going to Joe Biden either way, whether it's World War III or not World War III. I still have it going to Joe Biden. I just don't think Trump has it in him to win a state like Michigan. Obviously, he did it in 2016, so he obviously has it in him. But what I mean by that is I think Trump got lucky when he won Michigan in 2016. I really do think so. I don't think it's going to happen in 2024. Even if World War III broke out and all the bad scenarios for Joe Biden, I still think Joe Biden ends up carrying Michigan with a slight margin. So, and then lean states for Donald Trump would be Texas. Obviously, Greg Abbott overperformed expectations in the 2022 midterms. Congrats to him. So obviously Texas is still this very red state, and Democrats hoped they could keep it somewhat competitive in 2016. Not really. Trump still won that. I mean, by around 6%, so kind of competitive. But they hoped they would flip it in 2020. That ended up not happening. They failed to do so. Democrats hoped they would flip the governor's race in 2022 midterms. That failed miserably. Greg Abbott won that with tremendous margins. So Texas is still a red state, and I don't see it flipping in 2024. I just don't think 2024 is the year that Texas does flip from red to blue. I think maybe in the 2030s. Maybe 2036, 2032 would be the first time Texas ever flips blue, for example. But in the 2020s, for example, I just don't see it. And then as far as North Carolina, I see that as lean for Donald Trump. This is a state where Trump won it twice, both in 2016 and in 2020. Make that 3 times in a row, especially in a scenario where World War III broke out. All hell breaks loose. Americans will not be happy, and especially North Carolina, they will vote to the right again, as they have been for the past decade now. So, and obviously, just a fun fact, both presidents in World War I and World War II actually won consecutive terms. So, they won in a row. So, Biden, I think, would be the first president to lose in the election in World War III. So, and then now another lean state for Joe Biden will be the state of Minnesota. This is a state that Hillary Clinton barely won, and Joe Biden won with a comfortable margin in 2020. And I think he can win it again in 2024. I just don't think Trump, even if, Trump may have, Trump has to have the perfect messaging in order to, have Minnesota competitive or even win it. I think Minnesota could be somewhat competitive, but Trump's not going to win it. I just doubt it. I just don't see a scenario at all. Even if Trump's best case scenario, he's just not going to win Minnesota. I just don't see it. So, I mean, it's obviously going to be close, as I do have it leaning for Joe Biden, but I still think Minnesota will be going to Joe Biden. I just think it's pretty much gone for Donald Trump. I mean, it's obviously that's not very fair to say, as he barely lost in 2016. Obviously, Hillary Clinton only won by 1 to 2 percentage points, but I mean, I just don't think Trump has the right messaging. Is what I'm trying to say. So I don't think he's going to win Minnesota. I think Joe Biden will win that by around 5 percentage points. And then same thing for New Hampshire. I think New Hampshire goes to Joe Biden by around 4 to 5 percentage points. I just think this is obviously a pro-choice state, and Donald Trump is a pro-life candidate. So typically, pro-life candidates don't do well in pro-choice states. So with that being said, I think New Hampshire, a purple state, a swing state, whatever you want to call it, I think still will vote to the left of Joe Biden in 2024. And then now that is going to do it for all the lean states. Actually, one more lean states before we move on to the tilt states. I think Georgia will be lean for Donald Trump. I think Joe Biden got really lucky in 2020. Whether you believe in luck or not, I think he did. He only won it by 0.2 percentage points. That is the smallest margin of all small margins. So, and Brian Kemp, he did very good against Stacey Abrams. He actually did better than he did in 2018. Brian Kemp did better in 2022 than he did in 2018 against Stacey Abrams. So with that being said, if Trump can appeal to the Brian Kemp supporter base in Georgia, then he could do better. But as of right now, I have Georgia lean for Donald Trump. Now moving on to the tilt states, I think in a scenario where World War III broke out today, the 2024 election, I think Nevada will be tilt for Donald Trump. Now, it definitely could go for Joe Biden, as Nevada rejected Trump in 2016. They voted for Hillary Clinton. They voted for Obama twice. So Nevada hasn't voted for any Republican in the general election level ever since, I believe, George H.W. Bush, I believe, in 2000 or whatever, somewhere around there. So with that being said, I think Trump could do it. Obviously, I still think Joe Biden can definitely win Nevada, as they did good in the Senate in the 2022 midterms. Obviously, they elected Democratic Senator and Catherine Cortez Masto, but they elected a Republican governor and Joe Lombardo. So Nevada is a swing state. It's toss-up 50-50 at this point. If I had to choose one, I would slightly tilt it for Donald Trump at this point, but things can change. This is just a scenario where World War III breaks out. I can imagine Nevada flipping from blue to red in that scenario. So another tilt state for Donald Trump would be the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a state where Joe Biden only won by 20,000 votes. That may seem a lot, but it's not. That's a margin of 0.6 percentage points. That's less than a percentage point. That's how close Wisconsin was in 2020. I expect it to be close again in 2024, as it was close in 2016. Wisconsin has been close for the past 2 elections. I expect it to remain close for the 3 elections in a row. 2024, Trump won the state in 2016. He definitely can do it again, and I think he can, especially Joe Biden being so disapproved of, especially polls suggesting, that even a state like New York could be competitive. Wisconsin, I see it flipping from blue to red back to Trump's column. And especially in a scenario in this video, specifically in this video, we're talking about a scenario where World War III had to break out. Americans would not be happy with Joe Biden. And obviously Joe Biden, he doesn't have to. Obviously, Joe Biden would not be the cause of World War III, obviously, but still, it would not look good on his resume. And obviously, Donald Trump did not have any major wars under his administration, as we all know. So, with that being said, I see Wisconsin flipping, and then another flip. Honestly, I see Pennsylvania toss-up. Even if World War III broke out, I don't know if Trump could win it. Now, he came close in 2020. As Joe Biden only won it with a margin of a little bit over 1%, 1.2% to be exact. So that was a small margin. And Trump, when we're talking about the 2022 midterms, Dr. Oz failed miserably. Pennsylvania voted to the left in the 2022 midterms, and obviously Republicans did horrible in the 2022 midterms when it comes to Pennsylvania specifically. Obviously Trump was not on the ballot, so you can blame him, or you don't have to blame him. He was not on the ballot, so. But he obviously has to do something with nominating Dr. Oz, a terrible candidate. And I don't know. I just don't know. I'm going to leave it as toss-up for now. I think Joe Biden can win Pennsylvania. Even if World War III broke out, I don't know. I just don't have enough to say Trump can win Pennsylvania. Obviously, it's on Trump's resume. He had won Pennsylvania, obviously, back in 2016. And 2020 was obviously close, so he can definitely do it in 2024. But I'm going to leave that as toss-up for now. And then obviously have Trump flipping the state of Arizona, especially if World War III broke out with a tilt margin. I think it's going to be close. Arizona has been a trendy left state it's soon going to be a solid Democratic state. As for Californians are moving into Arizona, as we all know, California is a solid blue state. So, and Californians are moving to down south to Arizona, and it's trending. It's flipping the state blue. So, as we get, as we get closer and closer to 2024, Arizona will get even more bluer. But, as time moves on, expect Arizona to be a Democratic state. Obviously, they have a Democratic governor and a Democratic senator. So with that being said, I think Joe Biden can definitely win Arizona in 2024. But the reason why I have it flipping is because obviously in a scenario where World War III broke out, I imagine Americans would not be happy with the Biden administration, and they're already not. So World War III just make it even worse. So with that being said, I think Arizona could flip. It's gonna be close either way. But yeah, with the trend of Californians moving because California is just so expensive, they're moving to Arizona and they're helping the state flip blue. And as we all know, Arizona used to be this once used to be this Republican state, but now it's sort of a swing state and could be a Democratic state in the future. So, I don't know. I just have a feeling that Trump could win it because obviously in a scenario where World War III broke out, Trump could definitely win it. So, and then. With that being said, even if Trump loses Pennsylvania, obviously, he still surpasses 270. 278 to Joe Biden's 241. Let's say Joe Biden does win Pennsylvania, he's still at 260. So that's not going to help Joe Biden win. So in a scenario where World War III broke out, this is the map. 278 for Donald Trump. Let me know if you agree with this prediction in the comment section down below. And what states you disagree with, what states you agree with, and let me know your thoughts on my overall map. And do you think World War III would break out under the Biden administration? Let me know in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe as we are about to hit 600 subscribers.